I do think that I live to live and I don't live to work.
Peter Molnár, entrepreneur and former recruiter at Meta, who shares his journey of breaking free from the corporate grind to find balance and fulfillment as a digital nomad.
I love traveling. From what I've heard, you love traveling yourself as well. We do glamorize it to a very big extent on how can you travel and work. It is very appealing, though I have to say I don't think it works for everyone. It's really helped me to be a little bit more creative, really separate work and life. I always thought you have to work from 9 to 5 or you have to start a certain time. And I felt quite guilty if I wasn't starting, you know, how a lot of people say you have to start your day at 4, 5, 6 and like
AM.
meditate. AM. You know how
Oh, yeah.
everyone says like meditate, do gratitude, journaling and all these things.
Yeah.
For me, even if I start at 9, 9:30, I still need that time. So for me, it really was helpful to
Peter,
Daisy.
how has being a digital nomad improved your quality of life or your happiness?
I think tremendously, honestly. I used to be someone who used to go to the office quite a lot. I would go 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week. And I think the past 3 or so years have been almost completely fully remote. And I know it doesn't work for everyone, but for me, it's really helped me to be a little bit more creative, really separate work and life. And honestly, I do think myself that I live to live and I don't live to work. So yeah, I think I'm a lot happier with being a nomad or how you would call it.
And how, like, define happiness then whilst you're being a nomad and traveling? What does that look like?
I understand. So I think I don't know if I would completely say happiness. I would say freedom. That I have the freedom of, let's say, if I want to go for a walk in the middle of the day, or I have a chore, or I want to go to a cafe, then I can do so. And it of course doesn't mean that I work 2 hours a day. And I'm not a guru of like, you can get all this work done in 4 hours a week. But I think the freedom of I can start whenever I want to, I can finish whenever I want to. And for me, I never was a morning person, so I don't know about yourself, but
I'm
I
not.
can't. I mean,
I just force myself.
yeah. Like, how much work could you get done at like 9 o'clock? If
I hope my
is
employer
that?
is not watching or listening. No, but it's just, I always tell everyone, like, give me an hour to wake
Yeah,
up.
like defrost, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
defrosting,
that's
you're
how I
right.
feel.
I
Yeah,
need a coffee. I need to just kind of not talk
yeah,
to anyone for the first hour. Like, it's kind of like admin hour.
yeah,
It's like
definitely.
structure hour because I don't know, but some days I sleep really, really well. And then the next morning is a breeze. And I'm like, I want to hug people
Yeah,
and say hello to people. Most days I'm like, I want to kind of
yeah.
work
Just
from
give me time,
home.
right?
And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I have the same. For me, I always thought you have to work from 9 to 5 or you have to start a certain time. And I felt quite guilty if I wasn't starting, you know, how a lot of people say you have to start your day at 4, 5, 6 and like
AM.
meditate, AM. You know
Oh,
how everyone
yeah.
says like meditate, do gratitude, journaling and all these things. For
Yeah.
me, even if I start at 9, 9:30, I still need that time. So for me, it really was helpful to get into this routine of I can set my own time. When do I work? And, when do I feel the most productive?
Yeah. And you've had this sort of lifestyle in a corporate and now when you're in business,
Yes,
right?
yes, definitely.
Have you noticed like a difference with the schedules and
I do think so because I've had a remote contract for the past 2 years before going solo. And of course, there's a lot of flexibility because you're not expected to go to an office, but you do have to be somewhere at 9 o'clock. You do have to talk to the people there. So it definitely is a lot more of freedom if you're doing it yourself, right? So now I really feel like I can make the decisions on my own. And that's, I'm not having someone on sort of on top of me or just asking me what I'm doing and where I'm at right now, which I used to have before. So there is, of course, a bit of a change if you're going solo.
Yeah. And I think the main differences could be as well that with a 9 to 5 corporate company, you've got that stability
Yeah,
that
definitely.
you always have a job to kind of wake up to and
Yeah,
go
yeah,
to
definitely.
remotely. And as an entrepreneur is, yeah, you're building everything, right? Your schedule,
Yeah,
your
definitely,
clients,
definitely.
etc.
Yeah, yeah. It's fun and it's also stressful, I have to admit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. So why do you think people crave this lifestyle. We were doing some research before you came on, Peter, to
Yes.
the show, and it's just like the most asked thing,
Yeah.
like how to become a nomad. Oh, I want to be a nomad. How do I ask my employer, etc. Why do you think people are
I
asking?
think a lot of people really love traveling. I love traveling. From what I've heard, you love traveling yourself as well. And I think we do glamorize it to a very big extent on how can you travel and work. And it is very appealing, though I have to say I don't think it works completely for everyone, because it is also, you need to spend more money on traveling. You need to set up your workstation and your routine somewhere else. So I think that part can be quite challenging, but you are, of course, being somewhere abroad and you have a change of scenery. You're meeting different people, trying different food, getting to know other cultures. And I think that's the most interesting part. And it's
Yeah.
something that when I tried, I got hooked on this concept. So I can completely understand a lot of people feel this way.
What countries have you done this in?
Well, not enough. Would like to grow that list. So far, I've tried Portugal, Spain, Italy. We've done a little bit of working in Thailand as well.
Oh,
There it was a lot more challenging because of the time zones. I'm originally from Slovakia, so I've done it in Slovakia as well. And there it's worked really well because when I go back home to see my family, they work as well. So there it's the easiest because I'm not so tempted to go out and explore because everyone around me is working as well.
yeah.
So that has been really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've highlighted some of the good bits.
Yeah.
What do you think? Because I've also tried this
Yeah,
myself. I got inspired by you and Lilo. We'll put the Instagram screenshot
yeah.
here of your and Lilo's journey. I got inspired by you, my younger sister, who's just been bloody everywhere in the world working as a graphic designer. But what are the cons then? You've kind of dabbled in a
Yeah,
couple. What
yeah.
are the things that people don't talk about being a digital nomad?
So I've done a month in Spain, and it was absolutely amazing for all the obvious reasons of what we just talked about. I think the cons for me were to get a routine when you're abroad. So what we've done is we moved from place to place every 4 or 5 days, and I think that's a bit too much. I think that's a little bit too intense.
Wow.
Because of course you need to pack, unpack. We were with Lilo, so of course you have to take care of him as well. And then you just need to open your laptop enough hours of the day while you're trying to build a lot of things. So I think that is quite challenging because you are spending a lot more time on working and traveling and just moving from place to place.
Yeah.
So I think it takes a lot of resilience to work, and if it's warm and you have a pretty view behind you, it really is tough to work and not just close your laptop and run away,
Yeah.
right? And jump into the water. So I think there's definitely that being quite challenging. I don't know how it's for you. For me, I have quite a difficulty to concentrate sometimes. So I can imagine that, if there's too much music, if there's too much of something around me, I just completely lose it. And then I'm like, okay, I'm done for now. But how has it been for you when you did your trip?
I have the other way where if I'm in the office, I'm more distracted because there's people you haven't seen in a while and people can just come up to you and be like, hey, can I borrow you for a minute?
Yeah.
And
Let's go
then,
for a coffee and that type of thing, right?
yeah, I need to have that sign on the back saying like,
Yeah,
please
yeah.
don't
Don't
disturb
disturb.
me.
Yeah, yeah. I'm working.
So I really struggle actually in the office. Hence, remote working has been really fun. I've worked on the beach and I worked really hard.
Yeah.
I treated the beach as like
Like a reward or something?
No. So I treated it like a soundtrack, like
Okay,
the
okay.
sound and the people talking, and like almost like a YouTube video that you normally put in the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
background as you're working, right? I think the biggest challenge I actually had, Peter, was the thing no one talks about is the preparing, is actually the
Like
pre-planning.
the plan, right?
Yeah, because I was just so used to this routine here in Amsterdam. And when I went there, like you said, it's very romanticized, glamorized. I got there and then I got into my room and I was like, this is a lot smaller than I thought. And then I wasn't used to working with aircon, so I got quite
Yeah.
sick, etc. And yeah, like you said, the view, I was kind of looking always outside and I was like, oh, and then my
I could be
family
there,
was,
right? Yeah.
yeah, family was texting me. They don't understand that my job is in a laptop. So they were
Yeah.
like, what are you doing all day? Come to the
Yeah.
beach. And I was like, I can't just
Yeah.
dip out. But it was just a routine, really, eating late in
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about that. Plastic bottles, buying water instead
And
of
were you
the
working
sink.
mostly like in your Airbnb or outside or in a cafe? Like what worked best for you?
Mixture is mainly at the beach
Hmm.
when I went outside, but that's also taking the bus and
Yeah, yeah,
commuting there and then leaving late in the evening because it gets so hot and
yeah,
everyone
yeah.
has siesta that you have to leave later. Like it's just such a different routine,
Different way
Peter,
of
to
living.
like
Yeah,
here. It's
yeah,
crazy. Here you
definitely.
can just do it. The Wi-Fi works, everything
Everywhere,
works.
right? Like we are really
Yeah,
in a good spot here.
exactly. So I think planning and preparing is
Yeah.
like
How did
the
you plan? How did you go with hey, I'm going to go for this amount of time. This is where I'm going to stay. How did you plan
I
everything?
didn't. I just was really, I think a lot of people have this as well. If they have this remote working policy at work, it's just really spontaneous.
Just go,
I just
yeah?
booked it,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
which is a bad
definitely.
idea for sure.
Yeah. Why what would you do differently next time?
I should be asking you the questions,
Oh yeah, yeah,
but
okay.
that's fine. You can also talk about how we can prepare as stuff.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, I think I just need your advice actually,
Yeah.
Peter, because I just, yeah, I booked the Airbnb and everything. Like I picked my location, booked the flights,
Mhm, mhm.
all of that was organized. It was actually, did I need to book days off whilst I was there? I didn't understand the
Yeah.
intensity of
The work and
working
life
and
actually
life.
balance, right?
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. So how would you plan it?
So I think the things that we've done quite well, and I would do again, is going somewhere where I do a really good research of how I can work there. And what I mean specifically is weather, for example. Now, I really like 20, 25 degrees. When it gets to like 30, 35, 40s, that's a bit too much for me. So then I prefer to just stay inside. And that's why we chose for Spain, especially outside of the season, because then it's not too warm for us to work. It's a lot less crowded on, bars, beaches everywhere, but also the cost. So there are hotels that you can go to in July and August that cost 3, 4, 500 a night. You
Hmm.
can get in March for 70 or 80 because there's just no one going there, right? So you can go to like a 5-star resort, and you don't have to break the bank. So this is something that I always recommend to someone, and also really trying to figure out how you can actually work. So does it work for you if you are in an Airbnb or in a hotel? For us, one struggle was with Lilo. You have to get your room cleaned, and that means the dog can be there, you can be there, and not
Oh, yeah.
always do they come during the times that they say they will come. And then, of course, if you have to leave the room 2 or 3 times during the day, your routine is slightly falling behind. Your calls are also not going to be as good. Your work isn't going to be as focused. So that's also something that for me personally, Airbnb worked a lot better,
Yeah.
and also worked better than working in a cafe. I don't know if you know this feeling, but when I work in a cafe and I finish drinking a coffee, oftentimes they're already asking, "Do I want something else? Do you want something
Mm,
else?" And I feel really bad on just sitting there with one coffee for 2, 3 hours, but I
yeah.
can't drink 5 or 7 different coffees. So
Yeah.
then I try to get a decaf or a lemonade or something like that. But yeah, I just can't stay in a coffee place for way too long. So for
Yeah.
me, Airbnbs have been really, really great for work.
Yeah, I agree. I was in like it said B&B, but it was a hotel room
Hmm.
essentially. And I think the next thing I will do is an Airbnb, like an
Hmm.
actual apartment, because when I was going out and doing things and I was so exhausted, some days I just wanted to be by myself
Yeah.
and just being in a tiny room with my laptop and bed. I was kind of like, I can't cook. I
Yeah.
can't, I
So you
can't go
had
to
you
the
had only a
balcony.
room and a bathroom then, right?
Yes,
Hmm.
yeah, exactly. Not even a balcony or anything or a
Hmm. Hmm.
garden.
Hmm.
So I think that's what I would do differently next time. Have a safe space
Yeah,
that I can
definitely.
go to and just be myself and yeah, not have to worry about other people in the hotel and yeah,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
And I think also budget wise, right? Like if you can cook for yourself, if you can have breakfast by yourself, dinner, lunch, and if you're doing this for a really long time, you
Mm.
can really start feeling the difference in your budget and how much you're spending.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's a positive, right?
Yeah.
That if your job is based in London or if it's based in Amsterdam or New York, for example, and you can work from Spain or
Yeah.
Italy or somewhere like this,
Everything
your
is cheaper. Yeah.
your money stretches far.
Yeah.
Really, I think that was such a huge
You
benefit.
feel it so much, right? Coming from Amsterdam to essentially any place does feel like quite a difference.
And the quality of food is better. I
So
was
much
like,
better.
how does this taste good?
Yeah.
Looks good.
Everything, right?
It's
Fruits, veggies, cheese,
everything.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just baffled, to
Yeah.
be honest. I was like, I had a whole dinner for €7.50
Yeah. Yeah.
with
Amazing.
wine and pizza. And I was like, in Amsterdam. This would be
No.
triple, quadruple
Yeah.
the price and not even the same quality. So I think that's also been an adjustment that I was used to, like La Dolce Vita in Italy,
Yeah.
seeing my family, the sun, the food, the good bits. When I came back, yeah, adjusting to the cold weather. I went to a restaurant on the weekend and I was like, I don't even want to pay for it. Like the
Yeah.
food just didn't, it just
It's
hit and
different. Yeah.
miss. Yeah, I think that's also a con when you adjust and go back either to a different country or where the office is located, where your work is. It's hard to
Yeah.
readjust
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The post-travel blues, right?
Is
I
that
have
what it's
that.
called?
I think so.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
And how has it been traveling? Because did you travel without Lilo before?
So Lilo is now 1 year old. So we've done some traveling before as well, but we did want to make sure that we can take him too. So he's very small. He's 5 kilos, so you can take him into the cabin quite easily. And that's why we thought he's quite young, and we didn't want to have him stay at our friends or get him into a hotel. That we'll just take him with us. And Spain, for example, is a very dog-friendly country. So all the restaurants were fine, the hotels were fine, parks, everything was really, really easy. I know that there are countries where it probably isn't as easy to do this, even if you do have a small dog.
Yeah.
But that's a very big advantage of Spain, and you don't need to get any extra tests for the dog. So that also really helps.
Yeah. God, the
Yeah.
dog sounds like he has a better life than me. He
Definitely,
gets to go
definitely
to
better than
Spain,
me. Yeah,
run around on the beach, in the
yeah,
parks.
yeah. Enjoying the views and everything.
No work,
No
no
work.
stress.
No. Unlimited holidays.
So there are people out there who, you know, have children or have big dogs, for example, like other commitments here, that do want to have this kind of lifestyle, or an employer, right? That they've been employed for many, many years and they go
Yes.
to the office, etc. How does one how does one even begin becoming a digital nomad? I'm curious from my own perspective.
For
but
someone who
also-
has been in a job for a while and trying to get that
Yeah.
flexibility, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think so. My sister actually does something very similar, and their employer is quite flexible. They don't have this in a contract or in an agreement, but I think if you do have an honest conversation with your employer, with your boss, or whoever that might be, and you can set up sort of some rules on how this is going to work and on for how long. I think most conversations end up being quite positive. I've never had a pushback on, Peter, you can't do this, even when I was going to an office. I do think that from experience, I've started with 1 week working away, 2 weeks working away. If I would start with, I want to go somewhere for a month, 2 or 3, probably quite a difficult conversation. But I really do think if you are good at what you're doing and you have all the numbers to show, hey, I'm an effective recruiter, I'm an effective X, Y, and Z, that shouldn't be a tough conversation to have.
Yeah, so prove yourself first, have that foundation
Yes.
at the company, and then
Yeah.
trial it with 1 week.
See what works.
Yeah.
What would you say?
So my sister's also living similar lifestyle to you as well. She's been to Korea, Barcelona,
Oh,
Spain,
lovely.
everything, and now she has a bigger dog, and she's probably gonna watch this episode and get some advice
Okay.
from you as well. I don't think the dog would fit in the cabin
No,
area; it would go
Yeah.
underneath, but she's gonna go by car anyway.
Oh, that's easier.
Yeah, exactly. Where was I going with this?
How did she ask
Oh,
for
yeah,
the
sorry.
approval?
Exactly. Yeah, we can keep that in there. It doesn't have to be a blooper. She was established at her job, and then she asked.
Yeah.
It was just an idea. She was like, I kind of want to go to Spain. And then she just asked her boss, and the boss was like, it's a digital job, it's a design job.
Yeah.
Try it. So she did. And surprisingly, she kept getting like employee of the month
Yeah.
abroad.
Yeah, definitely.
Even in
You get
Thailand.
even more creative, right? And
Yeah.
even more good at what you're doing.
Yeah. Because some people just don't function in the mornings. They're night owls.
Yeah.
And imagine if you live in Thailand or Bali
Yeah,
and stuff.
works perfect for you. Yeah.
There you
definitely.
go. Yeah. So for her, the routine was super nice, being back to front. So like exploring during the day and then work in the evening.
Yeah, definitely.
Really worked for her. Yeah. So that's also something interesting, that the regular 9 to 5 model, 4 or 5 days in the office, doesn't really work for everyone.
And I do think post-COVID, I mean, we've literally proven to every employer that we can work and that we are efficient. And I think a lot of companies had record profits during COVID times when everyone was working only from home. So I think unless your profession is really requiring you to be in an office, why wouldn't be able to do this?
Yeah.
I think maybe pre-COVID, this would be a big no-no. I haven't heard a lot of people working remotely, 2017, 18, but now I think everyone can essentially work from wherever you want to, right? I mean, there really shouldn't be any restrictions.
Yeah, especially in our line of
In our line of work, right?
recruitment and entrepreneurship as
Yeah,
well. It's really easy. If you're working in a store,
definitely.
it's
That's,
really hard.
yeah,
It's almost impossible.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
What do you think about, are you seeing all these rumors and stuff that companies are asking people to come back 4 or 5
Yes,
days?
yes, I did see a recent example of Salesforce that I have to admit came across a bit funny to me because I remember that in 2022, the CEO of Salesforce said, we're a hybrid company, we're a remote company, I'm a remote worker myself, and I can't imagine going back to fully office. And it's not going to work ever in the future if we do mandate coming back to the office. And I think July 15th, 17th, so 2 weeks back, they announced in a memo that some people are going to have to come to the office 4 to 5 times a week,
Oh my
which
gosh.
is exactly the opposite of what he said before. And honestly, I think I'm very much pro-choice when it comes to this. I think if it does work for someone to be in the office, then please go to the office as much as you want to. But let's all make a decision based on what works for us, because a lot of people, and I do see it on LinkedIn sometimes as well, there are a lot of ambassadors for we need to go to the office, and maybe it does work for them, but if it doesn't work for us, then what extra value are we adding when we are going to be sitting in the office with a paper of do not disturb,
Yeah.
right?
Or
So
booked in a cubicle or a meeting room the
yeah,
entire day
and
doing video calls.
yeah, and everyone's calling with people from different countries, right? So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. I see this big divide
yeah,
now. And people have very strong opinions, don't they?
yeah,
They're like, you must go to the office. Like, how can you be productive? And other people are like, I've had a record year
yeah,
working
literally,
abroad.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So it's really, I think I agree with you. Like, give people a choice and like have two contracts, right? Like one for people who come to the office and give them benefits, and then one for the remote
yeah.
workers, I
Yeah,
think.
that's what I really liked at Meta, that there was this choice, and you can be an in-office employee, and then you're expected to be there, and you can decide to go the remote way, and you just have different sets of benefits. You have a different set of expectations, but at the end of the day, you're still doing the same job of an in-office employee.
Yeah.
Just do it with a different arrangement. Yeah, so I think why don't we just let people decide for themselves? Of course, you should have some level of guidelines, but I also think that we're mature enough to be able to make these decisions for ourselves.
Yeah. I think there's just this fear because there's loads of TikTok videos going around of
The
people.
life at Twitter and Meta and all
Yeah.
these companies, right?
Yeah, but also people working from a pool and saying, I'm a product owner and I
Yeah,
don't do anything all day. That circulated and then
yeah,
made people think, oh, do people do nothing
yeah,
all day? And that's just not true. I mean, you can see it with the results, right?
yeah.
Like in that department, and like if you're online on Teams and you're messaging people and having meetings all day, of course you're doing stuff, right?
But I also feel like a lot of people say you're more productive and more gets done in the office. But I also experienced in a lot of the companies where I was firstly in the office that people go on coffees all the time. They go
Walking
for walking
around.
around, go to the meeting room, and then I really question myself on how many hours per day are you actually putting in versus being in the office, 8, 9, 10 hours. So that's why I feel like at the end of the day, it really comes down to the numbers. I do think we should be measured upon some numbers, that it can't just be on, I think you're doing well, I don't think you're doing well. Sorry. And if you do have the numbers, then I think it's so much easier coming back to the topic on just talking to your manager and saying, hey, I've had the best year so far, or the best quarter.
Yeah.
Let me go and work from abroad for a month.
Yeah, I have a friend who's worked fully remote for many years for this big company,
Mhm.
and they've just issued out new contracts and said everyone's coming back 4 days, and not everyone's based very
Yeah.
local to the office.
Are they staying in the company, or
The
what's the reaction?
the person, yeah, I won't mention her name, but she wants to leave now, and
Yeah.
that's the issue, right? Like you can't just exclude the people in that decision. I think it should be an open conversation where like management addresses their concerns and says, oh, we want people to come back for XYZ
Yeah.
reason. And then they get challenged and people can put an argument for it, against it, etc. Because you can't just switch.
Yeah.
You'll
Yeah.
lose people.
And I do feel like a lot of people also got used to this way of working. A lot of
Yeah.
people have, let's say, children, or they have different things that they need to attend to. And going to the office is just not that easy as it was maybe before. And it is also a lot more expensive, right? I mean, here in Amsterdam, we can cycle anywhere, but a lot of countries, that's not really the case. And you need to spend money on trains in the UK, which I've heard are very expensive, or gas if you're driving to the office. And then you parking
Parking
spaces,
earn more an hour than a worker.
and you commute for an
Like,
hour there, an hour back.
yeah.
So that's 2 hours a day. That's 10 hours a week. So yeah, I just don't I don't see it being very meaningful, and that's why for me it's always about, let's give you some flexibility, and I think 2-3 days a week is a good start. I think
Yeah.
4 to 5 days, I think it's maybe a step back.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine people listening and hearing this, like cheering you on, like,
Yeah.
yes,
Ooh.
yes, guys, I'm gonna bring this to my boss
Yeah,
as
yeah.
an argument
Let's
for.
go.
So you were at Meta,
Mhm.
a corporate big company. They allowed you to work remotely, and then you started your own biz.
Yes, yes.
Why? How? Tell us.
Yeah, so I've had a really good time at Meta, and before I've worked at a couple of different companies. So what I wanted to do is, when I started my studies, is to try to get into a corporate job quite quickly. And the easiest way for me to do that is to go from different companies on a contract basis. And I worked at small companies, scale-ups, bigger companies. And then I always had this feeling of I want to build something for myself. And I got this pushback from my friends and family on, way to get a little bit more experience, more legitimacy. And I was offered to start with Meta, and it was a really exciting journey. When I got the message and the offer, I was over the moon. The idea of what I would be doing, the benefits and the compensation that came with it was like, okay, this is amazing. But even at this point, I felt like it's really good to be working at that company, and I felt like I checked off something off my list. But I still felt that there are some inefficiencies there that I would love to work on and try to do things differently for myself. And then I felt, where should I go from here? And I just felt, if I don't do it now, when would I do it? I know a lot of people, a lot of my colleagues that are one of the best recruiters I've worked with, have decided to go to different companies, whether it is big tech, so let's say Microsoft, Google, one of the others, or going into smaller companies and then start from a smaller team. I just felt like, for me, I just wanted to try this on my own and maybe prove it to myself. Can I do it? Or if not, then I would at least know the effort that it took to try it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so far I've been loving it. So it's been a big journey, very exciting, also very challenging. I did imagine myself being a recruiter and just talking to people all the time. Now I'm doing a lot more sales than I anticipated, even though it might be quite obvious, but I might have been a little bit naive with just how commercial I would have to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's sort of like the background, and I'm glad so far with the switch.
Yeah, you're an entire business. You're doing marketing. I see you a
Everything,
lot on
yeah, yeah,
LinkedIn.
yeah. I'm trying to like do everything at the same time, so wear all the hats that I can.
Yes, but something was like driving you towards that. And then you're also doing that and traveling
Yeah.
still at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have to admit, now I'm focusing a little bit more on work and a bit less on traveling. So I think it does work to travel and to work. But I also do feel like I needed to sit down in my office space and my laptop and just go completely, all in without any distractions. But I do feel, now that I've been here already for, a few months, that I want to go on the road again. But yeah, for me, that was also the reason why I wanted to go solo, is that I didn't want to have restrictions on when can I go somewhere, who do I need to choose, who do I need to ask, and the approvals, how many days a year or a month I can pick to do this. And I
Yeah.
wanted it to be purely based on, is there enough money in the bank to be able to make this decision?
Yeah.
So that was sort of like the only way that I thought this would work for me.
Yeah. And I mean, as a person on the other side, I can feel your energy, and I'm sure other people are resonating and thinking, I want this lifestyle. I want your lifestyle, Peter. I want to set up my own thing. I want to like have a blooming empire. I also want to travel and have a dog as well and travel with my dog.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
then there's that big well, not big, that small word that kind of lingers in everyone's head, which is fear
Yes.
of starting, even
Yes.
asking for remote work or starting your own business.
Yes, yes, it is definitely very scary. And even though I have made this step, I do have, these fears and this anxiety all the time. I think it's very natural that, you're just stepping into something completely unknown, whether it is starting to work remotely and being a nomad or starting solo. It is just something that you haven't done ever before. And, for me, I look at this fear as it's something new and it will mold you in a certain way. So either you decide it worked very well for me, or I know that this doesn't work for me. And that's what I also tell a lot of people that I work with that don't know what they want to do in their next step is it's all right not to know what you want to do. I think if you know what you don't want to do, the list of options is getting smaller and smaller, and you're
Yeah.
shrinking it until there's maybe 2 or 3 options left. And if that's what it is, then we spend our lives trying to figure out the meaning.
Yeah.
And maybe that's one of the ways to get there.
Yeah. And your business is quite niche, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So what I'm trying to focus on is really niche and leadership hiring. So mostly focusing on tech companies, the companies that go to around 500, 1,000 employees. So really the companies that are experiencing quite a lot of growth, whether that is you're entering new markets, whether it is growing specific teams. And a lot of the times the people that I work with just don't have the experience of expanding into different locations. So how do I hire there? What do I pay to those people? How do I hire the right type of engineering leader? And that's sort of those are those are the types of questions that I try to help them answer,
Yeah.
and to be their partner to sort of give them the I don't know how you call it in English, but in in Slovakia we say that you have like a wand and a key to like the fortress, and I'll try to give it to you so that you don't need me anymore and you're able to hire for yourself. I don't know how to say
That
this in
was
English,
beautiful.
but
I
that's
like
sort of like
that.
the
Yeah.
idea behind it.
Yeah.
So mostly focusing on those quite hard to find leadership roles in the smaller companies.
So I think it just sounds incredible. I think what you're doing is necessary, because I know that especially for leadership positions in tech,
Mhm.
you can't just post
No,
a
it doesn't work
job.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. They have to really be vetted out and have a good track record, and then you got to find that person.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
most of the time, these companies don't have the time, and the recruiters don't have the expertise to find someone so
Mhm.
senior. So actually outsourcing it to someone,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think is, yeah, really important.
And I think to add to your point, what's also very difficult is if you're looking for let's say a head of engineering or a VP of engineering, that can mean so many different things. An engineering manager at a company of 1,000 employees is so much different than an engineering manager of a company of 10, 15, or
Mm,
20, right? So
yeah.
how do you hire the right type of person for the scope and scale? And also, how do you get the people on board? Because a lot of the times, if we are trying to hire these engineering leaders at a very known company, they probably come at quite an expensive package. And if you are a company that's just growing and got the first initial investments, how do we get them over?
Yeah.
And that's just something that there's so many clouds in these topics and in these conversations. And where do I actually even start?
Yeah.
And then I see clients looking for these people for 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And then,
Mm.
it's a very expensive mistake if you don't hire the right person.
Yeah, because they are one of the most necessary people
Yeah.
as well
Yeah.
within the business. So it sounds like you're combining your love for entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
recruitment, which you have experience in, and you bring a lot to the table, and travel all at the same time, which sounds really exciting. Do you tell the companies about like digital nomad and remote work as well?
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah. I
curious.
try to say that quite often. I also do see that, especially at this level, a lot of leaders also travel quite a lot. So
Mm,
whenever I'm talking to people, they're also saying they're somewhere on holiday or somewhere on a boat. So I do think that at this level, a lot of people are used to also quite a similar level or way of working, and oftentimes working across different locations, different geographies.
true.
So yeah, but so far so good.
Yeah, the amount of, especially in corporate, the amount of times I'd call a VP or something and they're like, I'm just at the airport, and like they just
Yeah,
answer on their
yeah,
phone. So you're totally right. Yeah, they do travel a lot. Maybe they need your advice as well.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully I'll be able to help.
You can be a workshop consultant or like a
Yeah,
business
yeah, I'll add
consultant.
that to the list.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine they struggle because, yeah, I've arranged interviews for people who kind of fly. If they're
Hmm.
directors or VPs, they fly a lot and stuff, and they've missed interviews with candidates. And I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
I
that
have to
sucks,
go.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
difficult to navigate.
yeah. And the only excuse is, oh, sorry, they're so senior and they get called here, there, and everywhere, and they
Yeah,
book flights the next day. Like they don't have um control of their own calendars, do they?
yeah,
Normally.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, but also thinking from their perspective, they have to adjust to time zones all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Like they're just being told where to go.
Yeah, and they're also in a really comfortable position. So how do you get those types of people interested in a different job or a different
Mm,
project when they're already so heavily invested into what they're working on? And oftentimes maybe they have a very significant equity in that company. So I
mm,
also understand that if they are so busy and they don't have that much time, that you just need to approach these people in a different way.
yeah. And I can imagine, yeah, this is more of like a different topic. I can imagine it gets quite lonely being like on in those senior kind of roles and traveling all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Does it get lonely? Maybe this is quite deep. Sorry.
Yeah.
Does it get lonely for you when you like travel with Lilo and
So my partner also has quite a similar lifestyle to mine.
oh nice.
So we do spend a lot of time together and at home. I think a lot of people actually ask me this, like, is it lonely? How is that? I do have to admit, I really love the fact that I can talk to people essentially the whole day and be on meetings, and then also keep to myself. So oftentimes when I'm not working and I'm not with my friends, I also appreciate just sitting down, maybe watching something, playing a game, or just being by myself. So this is actually not one of those bigger struggles. I think something that I struggle with a lot more is I'm lost all the time, and usually I was used to having people help me and give me advice, and I had a manager or a director that I could sort of spar. And I find myself a lot of times making a decision on, do I go this way with a certain project? Do I work with these people? Do I take on this type of client or tools? And how do
Mm,
I market myself? How do I come across as professional and genuine? And like all these questions that I never have the answer to. And that's something that always pops up to my mind when people ask me if it feels lonely. In that case, it does feel lonely, with the sense of I would appreciate having some support, or someone give me the answers, but I also know what I signed up for, right? That
mm,
if I needed someone to always tell me what I needed to know, then I probably shouldn't have gone this road, right?
yeah.
So in this case, it does feel a bit lonely, where I would love to sometimes spread the risk or the decision making on, please help me, right? But I can't do that.
Yeah, bouncing ideas with a
Yeah,
business partner or
yeah,
something.
definitely.
Yeah, but then you have to share costs,
Yeah, all these
ideas,
things,
etc.
yeah.
To wrap it up and
Yes.
on that subject, do you need a lot of money to be a digital nomad?
I don't think it's a need. I think it's a want, but that's just a meme. No, I don't think you need a lot of money. I think if you go to Southeast Asia, you can get a lot more for your buck. I think in Europe, it is generally a little bit more expensive. I think context really matters, right? For us here in Amsterdam, anywhere we go, most likely it's going to be a cheaper destination. But I think there's always ways on how you can save more money, whether it is traveling outside of the season and you can get better deals on accommodations, on food, and on everything. And overall, just being more cautious with your money. I do think there's also a certain limit on, you want to have a certain level of comfort, right? So maybe it's fine to stay in a hostel when you're studying, or when you're going for a gap year. I couldn't imagine myself working in a hostel, sharing
No,
my things with other people.
no.
So you can definitely budget travel, but you don't have to stay in five-star resorts for a whole month.
Mm,
But I think there's really a lot of ways to save up on money. I do think that you do have to pay your life in wherever you're going from, and a new life wherever you're traveling to.
mm,
So it's not something that, if you're thinking about, you're saving up for something, for a mortgage, for a payment, for a car, for whatever you want to save up for, it may not be the most smart decision to just randomly go somewhere
yeah.
without really doing a thorough planning. But I do really think it really matters on the context, on how much you're making, which country you're going to, and what level of comfort you're looking for.
You should open like I was just thinking like an agency with like you sort out the whole plan,
Yeah,
like the Airbnbs and
there are these things actually.
oh
There are
really?
agencies that do this, and there are also travel influencers that sell courses on these are the different ways of traveling. And I do think actually there is some value to that, especially for countries that it's not so easy to do the research unless you're actually
Mm,
there. I think there it's definitely quite something for everyone to research on.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because especially I think just to wrap this up, the top countries for digital nomads were like Thailand,
yeah,
Bali, Georgia,
yeah.
Tbilisi,
Tbilisi, yeah,
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 and Argentina.
yeah.
And
Oh
they're
yeah,
so far out.
yeah,
Yeah, they're
yeah,
so far out. You can't, from the outside, you think sunny countries,
yeah,
lots of nature, cheaper. But yeah, you would need a lot of advice, I think,
yeah.
to work remotely from there.
Yeah,
Different
definitely.
cultures and
Yeah,
stuff.
because you do have like the flight tickets are the easiest to get, right? I mean, you can get a good deal, but you do really need to figure out how do you get Wi-Fi, how do you like get an eSIM, accommodation, how do you move from point A to point B? If you're looking to travel with a dog, it makes things a lot more difficult. So
Mm.
within Europe, things are quite easy to travel with a dog. Outside, you need to follow different regulations, import papers because you're importing animals, and they do treat it in a different way than if you're just traveling by yourself.
Wow.
So yeah, it definitely takes one more layer of complexity when researching.
So I want to see more of yours and Lilo's stuff, but I also want to hear more about your entrepreneurship journey and your digital nomad journey. Where can I find you on social media?
Yes, so you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm trying to be more active there. Lilo's Instagram will be somewhere linked, maybe.
Yeah.
And you can follow his journey as well. He's traveling quite a lot himself.
He's an entrepreneur. He's
He's an
making
entrepreneur.
money.
He's making his own bucks, and so you'll probably hear from me across these channels very soon.
Amazing. I'll give your Instagram a follow. No YouTube channel yet?
Not yet. Maybe getting there soon. We'll
Yeah.
see. Sneak
I think
peek.
it's a good idea.
Yeah, it could be
Yeah.
some vlogs here and there.
Another income stream for Lido.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go to divest.
Peter, it's been so good to have you here. A topic I really wanted to discover. I'm sure people listening and watching, yeah, really, really not empathized. What is it called? I'm sure people really resonated with this and will take this video to their boss, probably
Yes.
to plead a case.
Good luck, everyone. Thank you very much,
Some words of
Daisy.
encouragement from Peter.
Yes, thank you very much for having me today.